Alright everyone, this is the part 2 in the development of the spinal cord. We have already formed the three cells of the spinal cord and the elder plate and the basal plate and the roof plate and the foreplate. Now we're going to see what other structures can be formed from the spinal cord. Alright G, so we all know that during the development what happens is a neuroectoderm is formed, then this will fold, okay? This will fold, neural folds will form, and when neural folds are being formed, then what happens that at the junction at this tip of the neural folds there is special type of cells which we call as neural crest cells. ठीक है, हम लोगों ने न्यूरो एपिथेलियल सेल्स तो पढ़ लिए, इनका रोल तो पढ़ लिया हमने. जो सेल्स मिस किए हैं वो है न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स. अब न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स का स्पाइनल कॉर्ड के डेवलपमेंट में व्हाट इज़ द रोल ऑफ दीज न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स? ओके, for the pathway what happens is while the neural folds are closing, these neural crest cells will undergo epithelial to mesenchymal transformation and they will detach from here. And as the neural tube will detach from the surface, initially these neural crest cells will be lying here or above dorsal to this neural tube and then they will move laterally. ठीक है. अच्छा जी, in case of spinal cord, where are these present? These are basically, this is the journal structure of the spinal cord and I'm going to show from here that how a spinal nerve is formed and where a neural crest cell is involved. तो हम लोग इसके अंदर दो साइड्स एटलीस्ट पढ़ेंगे जहाँ पे आपका न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स इस स्पाइनल कॉर्ड के डेवलपमेंट के अंदर इज प्लेइंग इट्स रोल. सबसे पहले what happens, this neural crest cell is going to migrate laterally and it is going to give rise to this dorsal root ganglion, right? dorsal root ganglion. ठीक है, आपको पता है ना dorsal how spinal nerve journal anatomy में we know that we have a dorsal root ganglion, we have this dorsal sensory root, we have a mental root, motor root, and both of them join to form a spinal nerve. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे कि न्यूरल क्रेस्ट सेल्स क्या किया इसने, इट हैज़ फॉर्म दिस डॉर्सल रूट गैंग्लियन और द सेंसरी गैंग्लियन. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस दैट दिस डॉर्सल रूट गैंग्लियन इज गोइंग टू गिव ऑफ अ डॉर्सल सेंट्रल प्रोसेस एंड अ पेरिफेरल प्रोसेस. ठीक है, इसका जो सेंट्रल प्रोसेस है दैट इज़ व्हाट इज़ एक्चुअली आवर डॉर्सल सेंसरी रूट ऑफ द स्पाइनल कॉर्ड. ठीक है, अब ये डॉर्सल सेंसरी रूट जो है दिस विल ग्रो टूवर्ड्स द स्पाइनल कॉर्ड एंड नाउ इट हैज़ टू फेट्स. It will either go into the dorsal horn, the dorsal sensory horn, and it will synapse with the sensory neurons here, or it will go in the white matter layer which is formed by which layer of the neural tube, the marginal layer of the neural tube, and here it will ascend to a higher level and go to higher brain centers or it get synapse at a higher level of the spinal cord. ठीक है, या तो उसी लेवल पर आकर डॉर्सल सेंसरी न्यूरॉन के साथ साइनैप्स कर जाएगी या फिर इट विल असेंड टू अ हायर लेवल एंड गो टू अ हायर ब्रेन सेंटर और टू अ हायर ब्रेन सेंटर और टू अ लाइक यू कैन से के स्पाइनल कॉर्ड के ही हायर लेवल पे भी साइनैप्स कर सकती है. सही है. सो व्हाट हैपन, neural crest cells give rise to a dorsal root ganglion and dorsal sensory root is actually the central process of this dorsal root ganglion which was formed by neural crest cells, right? अब एक इसने हमने कहा था central process दिया, so definitely there will be a peripheral process. This what will happen to this peripheral process, this peripheral process is going to join our ventral motor root and it will join our ventral motor root and it will form the spinal nerve. ठीक है, it will give rise to the spinal nerve. अच्छा जी, अब यहाँ पे ही वेंट्रल मोटर रूट कल हम लोगों ने नहीं इतनी discuss की. we are going to see how does this arise. This is very simple. This is a motor root, so it is going to arise from where? It is going to rise from the motor neuron. And where do the motor neurons lie in the spinal cord? They rise in the वेंट्रल ग्रे हॉर्न. ठीक है, ये जो बेजल प्लेट से के अंदर न्यूरोब्लास्ट ने वेंट्रल मोटर न्यूरॉन्स बनाए थे वहाँ से एक्सॉन निकला एंड इट इज़ गोइंग टू गो एंड इट इज़ गोइंग टू जॉइन आवर this dorsal sensory root and both of them are going to form a spinal nerve. And then the story is the same as the structure of the spinal nerve, that it is going to divide into a dorsal ramus and into a ventral ramus. Okay, So I hope this structure, the spinal cord formation, is clear to you. We are not going to go into too much detail. Now we are going to go into the detail of the myelination. Okay, ventral motor root is actually formed during 4th week. Just remember that. Okay, how does the myelination happen? For myelination, always remember the rule: Schwann cell are going to cause myelination in the peripheral nervous system, and oligodendroglial cells will myelinate the axons in the central nervous system. This is a definite rule. Now, another difference, if you are asked differences, then what happens is that one Schwann cell will myelinate a single axon of a peripheral nerve, while one oligodendroglial cells can myelinate up to 50 axons of central nervous system. ठीक है. Oligodendroglial cells, where do they arise? Now, if you have watched my previous video, you must know that they arise from the glioblast, and glioblast originated from the neuroepithelial cells, which were the cells of the neuroectoderm, right? So these are the two types of cells. Up Schwann cell, where from there does the Schwann cell is going to rise? This is going to arise from the neural crest cells, right? It is going to rise from what? From the neural crest cells. Okay. Achha, neural crest cells, Schwann cell. Another important thing is that Schwann cell, we have said one cell will wrap around a single axon. Now this is very interesting, that if you imagine, I made it already here, but I'm going to draw it again for you. If there is a section of the axon, we take a section of the axon from here, and we see a cross section of the axon. How does the Schwann cell wrap? For example, if this is the Schwann cell, this is going to wrap like this, concentrically around the axon like this, and the sheath thus formed is called as neurolemma sheath. Okay, so this is all from the myelination. Remember, it starts at the 4th month of intrauterine life, and it also happens during the first postnatal life. First postnatal life में corticospinal tract जो है, they get myelinated. The tracts which are descending from the higher brain centers towards the spinal cord, those are myelinated in the first postnatal life, after the first year of life, right? And 4th month of intrauterine life, this basically starts. Okay, the next is the positional changes of the spinal cord. अब ये याद रखना कि why does the positional changes of the spinal cord happen? Look at this diagram. Okay, this we have taken approximately at the 3rd month. What happens in the 3rd month? This is the neural tube, and this is forming the spinal cord in the caudal region. This is the vertebral column. This is the vertebral column, and the spinal cord is definitely covered by its meninges. Okay, it is covered by the dura mater. Okay, what happens at this time, that there will be nerves that will be arising from the spinal cord, the spinal nerves, and they will be passing through the corresponding intervertebral foramina. ठीक है, ये अपने ही लेवल के intervertebral foramina से पास कर रहे हैं. Now this is the 3rd month of intrauterine life, this diagram. What happens is, after that, the vertebral column and the dura mater, these will expand rapidly, while the neural tube expansion is not as rapid. So vertebral column or dura mater will continue to lengthen. These two will continue to lengthen, but the spinal cord will not lengthen at the same speed. So in the 5th month of intrauterine life, what you start seeing, that you start seeing कि ये जो रूट्स होते हैं ऑफ द स्पाइनल नर्व्स, वो हायर लेवल, वो अपने इंटरवर्टेब्रल फोरामिना की तरफ जाने के लिए दे हैव टू गो फ्रॉम अ हायर पोजीशन टू द लोअर पोजीशन, यानी कि ये डिसेंड करना पड़ रहा है. ठीक है, एंड दे आर ऑल्सो लेंथनिंग. ठीक है, these roots will always, remember, these roots will always pass through their corresponding intervertebral foramina. ठीक है, they are not going to start passing from here at these levels. They want to go to their corresponding levels. Okay, so what do they have to do? Now they will have to lengthen for that purpose. To reach the site, they have to also increase in length. So क्या क्या चीज़ें इंक्रीज़ कर रही हैं? वर्टिब्रल कॉलम की लेंथ इंक्रीज़ कर रही है, ड्यूरा मैटर की लेंथ इंक्रीज़ कर रही है, स्पाइनल नर्व्स की लेंथ इंक्रीज़ कर रही है, लेकिन स्पाइनल कॉर्ड जो है दैट इज़ वेरी स्मॉल. I mean that its growth is not as rapid, and as a result its level will shift higher. And in the case of birth, at birth, what happens now? This is for a newborn. You can see where does the spinal cord, this blue one is the spinal cord, where it is lying at the level of L3 vertebra. Okay, at the level of L3 vertebra. And let me tell you an additional thing, that at in the adults, what happened, where the spinal cord will lie, it will lie somewhat here between L1 and L2. ठीक है, so spinal cord का level adults में further increase कर जाता है. ठीक है, okay, at this point you are going to discuss a number of terms. One of them is what happens now, the spinal cord at birth, where is it, or in adults. Okay, I will draw a diagram here for you. Now what happens is, this is vertebral column. Okay, this is the spinal cord. The spinal cord is enclosed by dura mater and pia mater. ठीक है, अंदर की तरफ I'm going to make, this is the pia mater. Okay, what happens to the dura mater? Dura mater, we said that it increases rapidly in length, so it will go down, and this dura mater is going to end at the level of S2. ठीक है, sacral 2 vertebra के level पर dura mater will be ending. Now what happens to the pia mater? Pia mater is the inner layer of the meninges. What happens? It is going to go even further down. This pia mater is going to go even further down, and it will end, pia mater will end at the level of coccyx vertebra. ठीक है, it will end at the level of first coccygeal vertebra. Okay, this is for pia mater. सही है, ड्यूरा मैटर तो एंड हो गई S2 के लेवल पर. पाया मैटर जो है वो ड्यूरा मैटर से, क्योंकि बिकॉज इट इज़ इनसाइड द ड्यूरा मैटर, इट इज़ गोइंग टू पास थ्रू द ड्यूरा मैटर एंड इट विल गो फर्दर डाउन एंड इट विल गो टिल द फर्स्ट कॉक्सीजियल वर्टेब्रा. ये जो स्ट्रक्चर बन जाता है जहाँ पे दिस एक्सटेंशन ऑफ द पाया मैटर टिल द फर्स्ट कॉक्सीजियल वर्टेब्रा, दिस इज़ कॉल्ड एज फाइलम टर्मिनल. Okay, so the extension of the pia mater is called as phylum terminal, and where it is attached to the first coccygeal vertebra. Okay, another thing that you need to know, you know that spinal nerves जो हैं, now they have to go, they are arising from the spinal cord, and to go pass through their intervertebral foramina, they had to lengthen and they had to go down. So eventually what happens is they are going to form this structure which looks like a horse tail. They are going down to their corresponding intervertebral foramina. All these spinal nerves will collect and they are going to form this structure which resembles a horse tail, and this is called as chorda equina. Okay, so we are going to quickly wrap it up with the neural tube defects. Neural tube defects. Okay, neural tube defects, what is does do you understand with this? It is a neural tube defect, so it is definitely a defect in the folding of the neural tube, right? If it happens in the spinal region, then it is called as spina bifida, and there are several types of this spina bifida. So there is a spina bifida occulta, in which what happens is that there is going to be there is defect only in the closure of vertebral arches, and it will not be visible on the surface. Only a tuft of hair will be present, which will show that there might be some defect, और अगर अल्ट्रासाउंड किया जाएगा तो फिर भी ये डिफेक्ट नज़र आ सकता है. ठीक है, अगर इस डिफेक्ट से प्रोट्रूड कर रही हैं मेनिंजीज, तो देन इट इज़ कॉल्ड एज स्पाइना बाइफिडा विद मेनिंजोसील. And if the spinal cord is also projecting through it, this defect, then it is called as spina bifida with meningomyelocele. Myelo word is used for the spinal cord. So there is protrusion of meninges, there is protrusion of spinal cord, right? And then what happens is there is another type, another more lethal type or aggressive type, in which what happens that the neural folds the neural tube does not fold. Instead, it is going to remain opened. ठीक है, ये फोल्ड नहीं करती, फ्यूज़ नहीं करती है, ट्यूब नहीं बना रही है, बल्कि ये ओपन न्यूरल टिश्यू प्रेजेंट है. दिस इज़ कॉल्ड एज राकेशिसिस. ठीक है, दिस इज़ कॉल्ड एज राकेशिसिस. द प्रॉब्लम लाइज इन द फोल्डिंग ऑफ द neural tube. How can neural tube defects be prevented? Neural tube defects can be prevented basically by taking what? By taking folic acid 400 microgram per day, right? And if there is a previous history of neural tube defects in that woman, she must take folic acid 4 milligram or 5 milligram per day, right? So that's all from that was all that was remaining from the development of the spinal cord. I hope you have understood the basic concepts. Thank you so much for listening.